Yeah. I'm not judging anybody. What I am doing is bringing awareness to who the bad guys and who the good guys are. And I don't care what color. Religion has always been a pain in our ass, and it was set in place to divide people, divide countries, and cause wars. Religion causes wars. Always has. But I mean, I have always been try to seek the truth because nobody likes to be lied to. We have to you know, we have to become spiritual, loving beings. That's all we have to worry about. We all have God within us. We have to learn to talk to ourselves, to get connected with ourselves, with our gods. Because we have so much creativity that has been taken away from us. Our DNA, when we start getting it back and we start ascending in our DNA, we're going to have 800 IQ, 1,000 IQ. And a lot of people out there, this is the ascension right now. They barely are, a lot of the low vibrating people have barely 60 IQ. I mean, 60 IQ compared to their potential 1,000 IQ. I mean, we can call it frequency or our dimension or whatever you want to call it, but it's an IQ separation. Because they can't figure it out. Because of their low IQ, they don't see what's going on. They don't, it's like you are on, 115 or 120, 125 frequency. That's your radio frequency. They're on 55 radio frequency, completely different. And we are all on this thing together. And people that may not know what I am talking about, they're smart enough to sit down and listen to what I'm saying, to realize that, yes, it's making sense to them. That's showing that you're in a higher frequency. You're in a higher IQ. We don't need their stupid tests. We don't need their matrix tests. Because everything is, they're saying the things that they're saying, and it's not coming out with the truth. Have they ever told you the truth about anything? No. We have to learn from ourselves, from each other. We are going to be the new information highway. Right? I'm never going to disrespect anybody's faith either. But if they're violent, I'm just telling you, okay? I've been around, I have lived in many different cultures over my 72 years. And I live in another culture which is totally Catholic. We do see some, there are Muslims there, but they're peaceful Muslims just trying to live life out the way they do. And they, it's the ones that are violent that are, causing problem. And, they're the ones that need to be taken out. You're going to raise your arms against me. I will raise my arms against you. Simple as that. I am there to protect myself. That's just the way it's going to get. Most with high IQs are always willing to keep improving their IQ. Exactly. Thank you very much. Yeah. But the rest, they don't want to improve themselves. And it's very, very obvious by what we're seeing out on the streets. And not to mention, all you have to do is throw a lot of illegal drugs into the mix, and you have they're barely existing. I'm seeing it every day. I live inside of it right now. I've had, since February, I've lived inside the matrix, inside the combat zone. I'm watching it. Ambulances and cop cars and everything every day, right, racing by, and I'm up doing security, campering for a good friend of mine that has very, very many expensive cars. He's so happy that I'm here because he's worried about it. It's all fenced off and everything, but he has security problems, and unfortunately, I have to leave very, very soon. I I have no problem. Listen, I've traveled to many, many countries, uh, over 50 countries, okay, and I've walked the streets of many. I could walk down the street of Istanbul at night in the alleys because a lot of hotels are in the alleys. If you look at Istanbul, it's all about hills and mountains. So you have many roads that are, on ledges and stuff like this, and the buildings are built on these high mountainside or hillsides or whatever, with lots of stairways up and down between the roads, and a lot of alley hotels and stuff like that. And you could, especially when the Muslims start singing their chanting at night, it's very mystical, very beautiful, and if you want to be a Muslim, that's fine, and that's a very beautiful culture if you're peaceful. But they have got some of their ideology inside their Quran that it just doesn't simulate with humanity. And those are the radical ones that have been brainwashed. Same as Christians. There's far right Christians and whatever they're doing that are they're not cool because they're breaking God's law. Anybody that breaks God's law is, I don't care about what religion they are, they're breaking God's law. Right? You try to live by what the scripture has been laid out. And all that's going to come, a lot of that scripture has been taken out to dumb us down because it was stolen out of the Bible. We should have 777 stories in the Bible. That's very proven. And we have some very, very smart people that has seized all that information, artifacts, and historical stuff, not to mention all the gold and diamonds and precious metal that was taken from underneath the Vatican. That's all been. I mean, the amount of money that was taken out of there. And Charlie Ward is working very close with the military. They called on him to move it all back into the United States. He was the one that moved it all back in because that's what he did. He was a professional money mover. He was moving large amounts of currency around the world back in his younger days. Yeah, that's just the way it is. There's a lot of people I follow because they make sense to me. Everybody has their own opinion to do whatever they want to do. I personally, I know when we start talking about religion and stuff like this, people lose their, they lose their shit, because it's such a touchy subject. What's going to happen when all these religions come down? You got to prepare yourselves. Humanity's going to have a huge wake-up call coming very, very soon. I mean, why is it that I'm, able to see things that are about to happen, and many, many can't? That's the question that I keep asking myself. But we know to move into higher ascension and stuff like that, it's going to be very painful. You don't agree with having the call to prayer in Saskatchewan 5? No, I don't agree with it because they're trespassing on your culture. That's what's happening, Annie. We can't allow the trespassing. Their motivation is to a lot of them are trying to conquer. I don't agree with it either. They're trespassing and you go in there and you disrupt them. If they're in the street chanting, doing their, prayer in the middle of the street, then you disrupt them. You get a whole bunch of people and you kick them out. Kick them out of there. Because they're trespassing. People have to prepare for the bringing down of the religions. Being spiritually connected to God is not a religion. Having churches all over the place, having mosques is not a religion. It's all man-made. Do you see back anything to do when you look into, if you're touching on or researching the galactics right now, what's going on in the galactics? Do you see them praying or having some kind of a church that they go to? No, you don't, do you? And that's where we get all the problems. As soon as you start putting one religion church up against another religion church, you cause a problem. You got a problem going. And this is and all the spiritual people are or the demonics are laughing because they're the ones that have stolen all the money from all the people. They stole all your taxes. First, you were all brainwashed into paying the taxes to give to them so they can start start having the money to move different cultures into different close together. So it causes problems. Why did they stick Israel in the middle of in the middle of the Middle East? To cause problems. They've been doing it since 1947. I was born in 1950. I was born in 55, and I see the crap that was going on then. I remember as a child, Mom and Dad were always talking, this war between, the 5-day Israeli war, stuff like that. It was because they were put down there, and you want to call them whatever you want to call them, But that's what I'm saying, is that all that's got to come down. If you're going to have peace in the world, you got to bring down all the religions. I don't care. Peaceful or not, it's got to come down. Everybody has to be spiritually connected with their own gods. And end of story. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I've seen enough out there, to know and see how it causes problems. Why do you think the Chinese are destroying all the mosques in China? Because it's up against their Buddhist culture. It doesn't assimilate, right? People have to learn. I mean, this is what the Global Alliance is going to do. You're going to start seeing even in the Philippines, with the Catholic faith, right? I think Christianity, is, they're about as close to what they should be. I mean, I'm not going to start taking sides here, but even the Catholic faith. Look at the absolute skeletons they got in their closet. Yes, exactly. Taxes are the biggest scam on the planet. Not to mention our health care. What a scam! If anybody can't see the level, no, the Galactics don't go preaching. They don't preach anything. They want us to raise our consciousness and start, once we raise our consciousness, we can start demonstrating all our God-given talent that God gave us. You cut your arm, right? After you stitch it up, you stop the bleeding. It'll heal itself. Our bodies are ready to self-heal. That goes with everything in our body. That's why when we rest and we sleep and we do good things, and we will heal ourselves in our sleep. They're trying to fill us up with poison pills to say, well, that's going to mend you and fix you. No, the only thing that's going to fix you, because we are multi-dimensional beings vibrating at a certain frequency, we need those frequencies into us to fix our bodies. Because we are frequency beings. I get it. I know what you're saying. But the Buddhists of Buddha, I mean, what's that guy's name? I forget. I'm not gonna get into this too much. There are the Dalai Lama. Okay, he's the biggest He's the biggest trafficker. One of the biggest traffickers on the planet. And who's that other one? The one, the nun. I mean, they were all huge traffickers. They are. They're pedophile. Yeah, they are. And that's what's going on right now. And I think that that mad scientist is her son. They're all in that club together. They're all shapeshifters. We couldn't remove these shapeshifters until we woke up. And that's what we're here for, is to help wake up a huge trafficker. And take a look at Mother Teresa and take a look at the mad scientists. Tell me they're not the same bloodline. Yeah, Mother Teresa was, and and most of these churches. Look at the Christians or the Catholics. What they did with all the churches and all our beautiful indigenous people. How they've ruined their whole culture, not just their culture. They went after them because they were the closest to source, and they had. If you ask an Indian, they'll be the first to say, our God now has no rules. Our God has no rules. Yes, the mad scientist is her son. I know that for a fact. When you know. My intuition is extremely strong. And when you get that, yes, it is, that's when you have to stay with your tuition. Sometimes I don't even need to think about it. It just comes to me. That's a higher vibration. That's where everybody's going here. Everybody's going to move into this higher vibration. You've all been chosen by Spirit Guide. You are all Christ-conscious people. And you're all going to ascend together, and just don't ever have anybody ever disrespect you. Family, friends, brothers, sisters, moms and dads, whoever it is, husbands, wives, don't ever let them disrespect the quality and the frequency that you possess. Okay? Your creator is basically putting new download into you. Their Mother Earth is saying, you know what? I've got too many fleas. I've got too many fleas on my back, and I'm ready to shake it out and vibrate at such a high frequency that it'll shake the fleas off. And that's what she's doing right now. And we, are going to be part of the golden age, which, how many times have we heard that? Yes, but the Catholics did that in Europe before they did it inside Canada. First Nations was a prime example. The Scottish and the Irish, they tried to destroy them as well. Exactly. It's an evil religion. I mean, that they hide behind religion. They hide their demonic, matriarch agendas behind religions. They all do. They put they profanicate put this imaginary, we're very, very, we're very peaceful, love and light, all this other bullshit. It's all lies. What they're doing with our children, if you're caught, that's why we're going to get rid of them all. Because if you're caught harming our little ones, my religion is to remove you PEDOs. That's my religion. yes, we all have a frequency, we all have an intuition, but some religion or some intuitions are stuck on they're muted. We have a DNA in us, a lot of it has been muted, and we're just breaking through all that right now. I mean, why is the sun doing the things that it's doing? Why is it gone from yellow to white? Why has so many fires out there? Why is there, the travel that's going on there, the things that are happening? So much demonic stuff in the world right now. Shootings in the streets. Religions taking over cities. Trying to impose their true beliefs in other religions. It's becoming a chaotic mess. Right? It's a chaotic mess. And it's basically, they're showing you how bad this can be. But there are solutions out there that will fix all this. People are very, very poor. They have no money. The reason what got all the Muslims into Eastern or Western Europe was about the money. It was the puppet politicians that stole the money that they were printing for free, right? They were printing it for free and then handing it out in lieu of credit cards and cell phones and whatever they wanted. Just come here, we'll give you a house. We'll give you a place to stay, right? They were preparing for this for years and years. They were basically making the Middle East a very, very poor nations to get them all prepared to say that when the money's over here, you can all run over there and go get the money. I mean, and they tried to destroy anybody that was trying to make their country a better place, such as Libya. Muammar Gaddafi was making a beautiful standard of living for everybody inside of Libya. Saddam Hussein was trying to make a beautiful country from everybody that was, that was living in Iraq, for the beautiful people there. But Iran, because they had their jihadi religion, they knew that they were on the other side. They did not want prosperity for its people. They were suppressed and they were taken over by radicals. They started a war, an 8-year war with Iraq because of that. And Saddam was beating them off. Saddam was stopping all the terrorists inside that whole region. And he was killed for it by the reptoids out of Washington. I mean, I can see it. I hope everybody else can see it. Know your history. The dew is in Spokane. Yes. Well, that's, they're attacking, conservative regions and areas and houses. Those are conservative people there. It was the same thing in Penticton. There were rural areas that were very conservative up there. That's a threat to them. Right? Look at North Carolina. Beautiful people up there, whatever. They destroyed all that because it was a threat to them. Well, we'll soon find out. Maybe they're clearing it out. Maybe it will be 5D. Some people are getting a headache looking at the sun. I don't know. I'm just not that far advanced. I'm still learning like you are.